Have you ever wanted to really develop your Camtasia skills? Or perhaps if you already use Camtasia, would you like to get your level up to say an intermediate or even advanced user? I've built a 6-part course that will take you through Camtasia, through everything in Camtasia, and take you right up to an advanced level. My name's Russell Stannard. I've been using Camtasia since 2006. I've won several awards for my work building educational videos, and these days I build educational videos for a variety of clients. Perhaps the best known client of mine is National Geographic. This video is going to look at how we actually record our videos and how we can bring media in, and that includes video content that we've brought in from outside, pictures, audio, etc. If you're looking for another part of the course, I'm going to put a link to the 6-part playlist and you can access the different parts of the course. I'll also put the playlist in the description below, and along with that playlist there's a link where you can download and test Camtasia for 4 weeks for free. Really hope you like the course, and thank you very much. Please like, subscribe and comment on the videos. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you've got Camtasia 2022 downloaded onto your computer. Remember, you can use it for free for 4 weeks, and in the link below in the description there is a link to the video. I'm going to click on Camtasia 2022 and it will open up, and it does offer you from the beginning a few options. As you can see, you can start doing a screen capture or screen casting video immediately. You can open up a previous project, you can open up one from templates, or you can do what we're going to do, and that is start a new project. So we're going to start completely from fresh, and the main thing that we're going to talk about first of all is the media. So if you're going to make a Camtasia video, you're going to need media, you're going to need audio, you're going to need pictures, etc. Where do you get that media from? Let's just talk a little bit about that. So the first thing you might want to do is import media. Now you can click on this button here, but I always come to this one here, file and import. And one thing is, once you start importing media into here, this button disappears anyway. So I normally use it here, file, import, and you can obviously bring in all sorts of media content depending where it wants to come from. Now I just want to talk about this media content. It could be pictures, it could be video, it could be audio, and it could be taken on your telephone, on your camera, or it might have been content that you've accessed from the internet. Hopefully you've got copyright to that content, or it could be, for example, content that you've bought into. But basically what you're going to be doing is importing in content that you want to work with in your Camtasia video. So the good thing about Camtasia is that you can combine the use of real video with screen capture video. Often when it comes to importing video, for example, images, perhaps logos, backgrounds, etc., that would be often the type of things that you would bring in from outside. Now, apart from importing media, the other thing, and perhaps in many ways if you're working in training or education, the most important thing that you can do in Camtasia is you can make screen capture or screencast videos. That is, you can record the screen of your own computer, and that can include both the audio on the computer. So for example, if you were recording a website and that website had audio on it, that would also come out, but it also your own commentary would come out, and this is exactly what I'm doing at the moment. Now, this ability to record the screen of your computer is absolutely vital, particularly in training and education. And the good thing is Camtasia does it really, really well. So you're going to get high quality screen recorded videos. You could be talking over PowerPoint slides, you could be talking over a picture, you could be talking over a map, a table of data, etc. So the ability to create screen capture videos or screencast videos is really important, particularly in training and education. And you can include, as well as the audio, you can include your webcam. So you could actually record yourself, for example, talking over a PowerPoint slide, and include yourself on a webcam in the corner of the screen. And of course, in a minute, I'll be showing you how you can do that. Now, another brilliant source of media is the media library provided by TechSmith Camtasia. And in the 2022 version, and something we'll be looking at a lot throughout this whole course, is all of this additional media that you've got access to. For example, there's lots of audio files. If I clicked on them here, I could even play them now. If I clicked on this button and played this sound. And so you've got access to a lot of media. Now, apart from the media that's provided for free with Camtasia 2022, there is also the option to download additional assets. Now, you would have to pay for these. I personally do pay for these additional assets because I make a lot of use of them, and those are extensive library of videos and audio and openings and closing animations, etc. All sorts of things that you could bring into your Camtasia videos, and I will definitely be looking at that at the end of this particular unit of the course. Now, I just want to talk about screen sizes, and it's very important because in a minute we're going to start to import images into our canvas, and I want to show you a few things about the way that images will fit on the screen, as well as any video content that you bring in. The standard size at the moment for perhaps videos on YouTube, often when I'm making videos for things like Moodle and for online courses, the standard ratio is 16 pixels across by 9 pixels high. Okay, so 16 by 9, and we've got lots of different options. Of course, it could be, for example, it could be 160 pixels by 90, or it could be 1600 pixels by 900, or it could be, for example, 1920 pixels by 1080. This is a 16 by 9 ratio. Now, if we click here, you'll see there are other 16 by 9 ratios that we've got an option here. For example, we can choose 1280 by 720. That's also a ratio of 16 by 9. And this ratio is really, really important, and you'll see why in a minute when I import some images in. Now, of course, sometimes you're producing video content for other or for specific devices rather than to go onto YouTube or rather than to go into a course. And there are actually options here available to produce video for other sizes, and you can even click and customize and put the specific sizes in. We're going to be working with 1920 pixels by 1080. That, as I've said, is currently the most common size, and it's the size that we use for YouTube videos. So I'm going to click on apply, and that means that that canvas, the ratio is always 16 by 9. Now, why is that important? Well, let me demonstrate why that's important to keep in mind when you import images in. So let's import in our first images. So file, import, media, and I'm going to just grab a few images. So I'll click on these images here. So we're only importing images in at the moment, okay? And I'll bring all these into the media bin. So I've just imported in a whole series of images, and I can just click here and I can see them all. Now, remember, this is a 16 by 9 ratio. So if I drag an image onto the actual screen, and you'll notice with this one here, which is obviously quite small, the image is much smaller than the size of the canvas. Now, what we can do, of course, is we can stretch that image out to fit on the canvas, and there's various ways we can do this. One of them is to simply just hold the image down and then drag it across the canvas. Now, notice that there's still these black bars on the left and right. In other words, the image that we've imported, even though we've stretched it, still doesn't cover completely the canvas. Remember, the canvas has a ratio of 16:9. Why doesn't it cover it? Well, it doesn't cover it because this image does not have a ratio of 16:9. If it did have, then as we stretched it, eventually, of course, it would reach the size of the canvas. So this creates a dilemma because you're either left with the two blank areas on the right and the left, or of course you could overstretch the image to make sure it covers the whole of the canvas, and you can do that. Okay, so if I just stretch this image out even further, now it does cover the canvas. Now we need to position it correctly. So that is an option. You do have that possibility. Now if you've got an image that is 16:9, I'm just going to delete that for a moment. If you have an image that has got a ratio of 16:9, when you stretch that onto the canvas, if you decide to do that, you want it to completely fit over the whole of the canvas, of course you won't have that problem. So it's really important to keep that in mind when you're bringing in pictures. If you can bring in images that have the same ratio as the canvas you're working on, it makes it much easier to position those images, particularly if you want to make them completely cover the canvas. So let's import in an image that has the right ratio but is actually smaller than the canvas size, and I've got an image here on the desktop of my computer. I'm going to bring that image in, and I'm just going to show you then what will happen to that particular image if we drag it onto the screen. So that image isn't the size of the canvas, as you can see, but the ratio is exactly the same. So look what happens if I stretch it. You'll see that it fits perfectly onto the canvas, and that's why getting the ratios correct, or making sure that if you can, the images that you bring in are the same ratio as the ratio of the canvas that you're working with, it will allow you to do this. And it will generally look a lot more professional because you don't have to kind of stretch the image in any way. You simply increase the size of it so that it's equal to the canvas. Of course, you must also think about when you stretch an image and you make it bigger, and it will pixelate because you're making the image bigger than it really is. You need to think very carefully about the quality of that image. When you place an image onto the canvas or onto the timeline, remember you can do either, then you can pull it out and have it stay on there for a longer or shorter period depending on how long you want it on for. Okay, so you do have control over that. Now remember also that you can have multiple images. So if, for example, we've got that image on the screen, we could also bring on, for example, another image and place that on the screen, or even another one. So you're not limited necessarily to just having one image, and of course again those images can be on the actual screen for a period of time that you control. Video doesn't work quite the same, and we'll be looking at it in a minute. Well, a video has a defined length of time. You can shorten it, but what you can't do with a video is make it any longer. Okay, so let's just delete those images off the screen. We're going to bring in some video. So we'll do File, Import, Media. I've got a video here. I'll just bring one in for now. Click on Open. Now, if I bring this video onto the screen, remember we can always drag it onto the canvas or onto the timeline. It really doesn't matter. One thing to remember is that if you drag it onto the canvas, then it will actually be placed on the timeline depending where the playhead is at that particular moment. And notice that because the playhead is in at the beginning, the video didn't start from the beginning. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to point out to you, let me just click on that and delete it, that obviously if you drag something and then drag it on to the canvas, you can make sure, or sorry, onto the timeline, you can make sure that it starts right from the beginning. Now, notice that this has filled up the screen, so therefore we know for sure that, remember, if we click here we can look at the project settings and we know that we're on the kind of standard size for YouTube videos, or often for educational videos that we make, 1920 by 1080, and we can tell therefore that the ratio of this image, sorry, of this video is obviously exactly the same. And of course we can control how big or small we put the video on the screen. Remember what I've said about video. You can shorten video, you can make it shorter, but what you can't do is stretch it out. If you want to do that, you're going to need to drag the video on a second time. Okay, and now that way you've got one video and then you've got another. Okay, notice obviously that the second one has come on full screen, okay, because you haven't adjusted the size. So if I come back to this first one, and I can just move the playhead and come along to the first one, I can right click over it. In fact, no, I have to do it from here. Right click over it and click on scale to fit, and it will resize, okay, to fit the canvas. That's a really useful button, one that I often use, and it only works, or it works best when the ratio of the video is exactly the same as the canvas. Okay, so that's the way that you can make a video longer. You can't, like you can with an image, you can't actually stretch out and make the video longer. Now I've just brought in another video just to show you something. I'm going to delete the first video off the timeline, click on the second one, make it a bit smaller, and I'm going to bring on another video onto the screen, and I'm going to make that smaller too. Okay, so we've actually now got two videos on the screen, and in theory, Camtasia can deal with that, no problem at all. What would be the challenge, of course, can be your computer and whether or not, because remember, you're processing two videos at the same time on the screen, so it would depend to some degree on the computer that you've got how well this is going to work. So if I click on this, you'll see now we've got two videos running at the same time. So keep in mind that is another possibility, and it's a technique that we are actually going to be looking at quite a lot through this course, because often what you do have is a webcam in the corner and then a screen capture video. So again, you're really working there with two different videos. You've got the screen capture video, perhaps talking over a PowerPoint slide, but you've also got yourself in the corner on the screen and in a webcam. So in fact, you're running two video channels at the same time. Okay, so it's time to turn our attention to screen capture. Screen capture is the ability to record the screen of your computer, and you can literally record anything, and you can also include your voice, and you can also include the audio that is actually within the computer itself. So if you're perhaps recording over a website and that website's got sounds on it, we call that system sounds, then it can also record those as well as your voice. Of course, that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing a screen capture recording. So in fact, what I'm going to do in a minute is I'll be doing a screen capture of a screen capture. So here is the screen capture button. This is the one that you want to click on, and it will open up the recorder, and I'm just going to take you through a few of the basic settings. So here it is. We've opened it up on the screen. As I'm talking, you can see that the microphone level is going up. I really like the way this is set up, because obviously screen capture has got four major things. It can record your screen, and you can control the size and the area that you want recorded. It can record your webcam, and we'll be looking at that later. So we can have two videos being recorded at the same time. Really, we can record both the screen and of course the webcam. We can also include our voice, which is what you can see happening on the screen at the moment. And last of all, as I did mention, we've got what we call systems audio. When you've got systems audio turned on, it will record anything that the computer plays, any audio, any background music on a website. Let's say, for example, you record yourself, you record a video, and that video's got audio on it. Well, if you've got systems audio set on, it will record that as well as record your voice as well. So those are the key four settings. I like the way that they work. You've got these little drop down menus. It gives you the option, right, which webcam to connect to, which region do you want, and of course you can even have specific regions here. Notice that it instantly will go full screen if you want it to do that, but you can of course also choose the region that you want to record. Okay, you can see here the region marked on the screen, and you can even play around with this and just move it around and maneuver it, depending of course on what you want to focus on, and we'll be looking at that in a minute. The microphone the same, you've got the drop down menu. You can notice I've got several microphones on my computer, but I've chosen a particular one that I want to work with. I can adjust the volume, and I can then turn the system's audio on or off. Now there are a couple of settings that it's worth having a quick look at. So let's take an example. Let's imagine that I wanted to do a quick video talking about my website. Well, what I could do, for example, is I can position the screen capture area that I want to record and actually kind of say, well, okay, I want to record that area there. Okay, so I can actually control that. Or what I could do if I wanted to is I could of course just say, right, I want to go full screen, and I could just click on this option and it will record the whole of the screen for me. Or I do have the option, for example, of working with specific areas. Let's say, for example, I want to record a smaller area, but I want to keep the ratio to 16:9. I could click on there. You notice now that you've got a smaller area. Now what I would have to do in that case is adjust the size of the browser to kind of fit into that area. That is a possibility. You can do that if you want to. If you want to make sure, for example, that you're working and you say, right, okay, I want to kind of squeeze that into there. I do have that option, okay, and do it that way. And that's often what I do. If, for example, I want to record at a smaller size, I kind of squeeze the website or the video or the image or the table, whatever I'm talking about, into the area that I'm designating for the recording. And then really, once I'm ready, the button to click on is start. But before that, I just want to point out a couple of options that we need to consider. I'm going to click on this tools, and they've made this quite simple, and I'm really glad about that. I'm just going to click on preferences and just very quickly talk through a few of the preferences. Okay, so if we click on tools, preferences, notice here, show recorder countdown. That's a great idea. Restore cursor location after pause. That's a really good idea so that you know where the cursor is. Okay. Do not capture recorder on the screen. That's also a really good idea. You don't want the actual recorder itself to be captured when you start doing a recording. So even though it records the screen of your computer, it doesn't record the recorder, even if the recorder's on the screen. Okay. I don't like to exit the recorder after the recording is stopped. So when I click on stop, it gives me a few options before I move on. So it allows me, right, do you want to save this? You don't want to save this, etc. And then open editor after the recording is stopped. Well, I don't want that to happen because often I'm recording multiple videos and therefore I don't choose that as an option. If you have that option on, it means that when you click on the stop, it will go straight into the editor, the video. You can work with that option. These are things that you will have to play around with a little bit, but my general option is not to have that because often I'm doing multiple recordings before I start to work on editing those recordings. Now another really important setting for me, if we come across here, is the files. I always choose prompt for name, and this therefore allows me to name the recording that I've just created, and that's really important rather than use an automated name, because an automated name could just be a series of numbers and dates. What you really want to say is video 1 talking about the website, video 2 how to open blah blah blah. So you really want to be able to name each video as you record, so I always choose that as an option. Just be aware of where the temporary videos are stored, and that can be useful, for example, if you perhaps make a video, because you will be able to obviously override that and say, we'll save the video here and save it in a different file. But this can be sometimes handy just to be aware of where temporary storage folders are, just in case you record something and then you've forgotten about it and you want to retrieve it. Okay. Inputs here, well, I leave these all as standard. I don't want to go into this in too much detail. Notice that the webcam camera is also going to be at 16:9 ratio. That's the camera, that's the screen, that's fine. And the frame rate is the number of frames per second. They are standard. You, as you get more experience, may want to look into reducing the frame rate or increasing it. If you reduce the frame rate, the video will be smaller. In most cases, we want to keep that at 30. You have the same option with the screen recorder. In fact, in the screen recorder, you can increase the frame rate and have 60 frames per second. That will obviously put more demands on your computer because you're reproducing 60 frames every second, but it will also obviously vastly increase the quality of the video. That would be very unusual for the type of stuff that you would put onto YouTube, etc. 30 frames per second suffices, and you want to use this standard encoder. There are other options, but you basically want to leave that the same. Shortcuts, a couple of them are really useful to learn. F9 to pause. When I'm doing a recording, quickly just press F9 and I've paused. F10 to stop is also another really useful one. We won't look at markers until later, so I won't discuss that in a moment, but you are able to put markers onto your videos as you're making them. I don't do that. I tend to do that at the end when I'm editing. Okay, we're now going to focus on screen capture. And so to do that, we need to click on the record button. It will open up the screen capture window. There you can see it on the screen. I'll just move that up to the top there. This is actually the area that is going to be recorded, but of course you can change that. So anything inside of that area, when you click on this button, will be recorded as if it was a video. And if you probably can notice here, it's also the registers going up as I'm speaking. It would also record my voice. So when you do screen capture, you've got 4 key settings. I really like the way Camtasia sets this out. Here is where you choose what part of the screen you want to record. You've got various options. You can go full screen. Of course, that means it's going to record the whole screen. You can choose a specific region yourself and just mark it out, which is obviously very useful. You can, of course, choose specific sizes. We've already talked about this. This again would be 1280 pixels across by 720 pixels down, and there are even specific ones for doing videos for Instagram. The layout of this kind of capture window also means that you can sort of click here and choose your webcam. If you want to add a webcam, you can turn it on or off. Here you can choose what microphone or which of the microphones you want to use. So for example, if I decide I want to use this microphone, I can click and choose to use that one. And this is systems audio. Systems audio simply means that when you record, if whatever you're recording has also got audio in it, perhaps for example if you're recording a video or you're recording a website where perhaps there's music or there's sounds, if you've got the systems audio on, it will record also any sounds coming from the computer, as well as of course the microphone if you've got that turned on. Now when you're recording, there's a couple of really important kind of settings to remember. So click on Tools, click on Preferences. You'll notice you've got these 4 tabs. Just want to quickly go through a few things. First of all, show recorder countdown, really useful. Restore cursor to location after pause, very useful. Do not capture recorder on the screen, where you definitely want that as well selected, because you don't want to record the recorder when you're recording the screen. Now I did want to record the recorder because I wanted you to see it, but in reality of course you don't want the recorder on the screen when you're doing a screen capture video, so you definitely want that selected. And then I would turn these last 2 off. The other really important setting is this one here, and I would always prompt for file name, and that gives you the opportunity to write in the file name of the video that you've just recorded. You saw me doing that. I had a first video, then a second and a third. Inputs, just leave that the same, that's all fine. Notice that the camera, your webcam, will record also at an aspect ratio of 16:9. A couple of shortcuts that are really worth learning is F9 and F10. F9 pauses, and if you press it again it unpauses, and F10 stops the recording, and that's really, really useful. So one thing to keep in mind is if you are doing a smaller recording, in other words, you're not going to go full screen, you can always minimize, or kind of not minimize, but reduce the size of the area that you want to record. So I often do this. So for example, if I'm going to use this website, then I would kind of fit the website that I want to record into the area, and that way, if I do that, of course, I can record at smaller sizes. Sometimes that can work out really well, because if you don't record too small, you can of course expand it, as long as, for example, you get that aspect ratio correct, that 16:9 aspect ratio. If you do want to then make the video bigger, you can stretch it out on the canvas. So we'll be showing you that in a minute. So we're going to do a recording. We're going to do using 1280 by 720. Don't need the systems audio on, so I'm going to turn that off. We do need, of course, the audio on. I'm going to click on this button here and it will start to record. So if I click there, on comes this kind of recorder. Testing, testing, 1 2 3, testing, 1 2 3. Anything I do now, for example, if I scroll through, if I click on any other, it doesn't matter what I do on the screen, that's all going to come out in the recording. I can pause, and then I can also continue. If I've made a mistake and I want to start all over again, I can click on that. But if I'm happy, I can click on this button here, stop. And immediately it's going to open up a window where I can then save that particular video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to make a new folder called videos, and I'm going to save it in there, and this would be video recording 1, vid 1, and we've made our first recording. Now what I often do is I make all the recordings first, and then afterwards I begin to edit them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do a second recording, but in the second one we're going to use the webcam. So this time we're going to click here and we're going to turn on the webcam. So it's going to record me, and you can see me now, and I've got a green screen behind me. I've got just a simple green screen. And of course it's going to record what's on the screen in this area here. We're still keeping it to 1280 by 720 pixels. So in other words, we're actually going to be recording two videos really. We're going to be recording the screen capture video and also the webcam video. So let's just try and do that. So you can see now that I'm recording. Testing, testing, 1 2 3. Again, of course, I can click through pages, etc. And now if I'm happy with that, I'm going to click on stop, and I'm going to save that as well in my video. I've made a kind of folder for videos. Remember to give it a name, so we're going to call this webcam number 2, because obviously it's going to be my second video. Save. So now we've created two videos. We're going to do one final one. We're going to turn the webcam off for this final one, but for this final one, what we're going to do is I'm just going to come back to my home page on here and just jump onto here. I'm just going to show you how systems audio works. So remember, systems audio allows you to record any noises, any voices coming from the actual website or video page or whatever you're recording. In other words, anything that's produced from the computer, not your voice. So in this case, if I click here and turn on the systems audio now, and we're going to do another recording, and if I play this video now, that video will be recorded. The audio from that video will be recorded, because we are recording the systems audio as well. Hi, this is Russell Stanall from teachertrainingvideos.com. I just want to tell you about and I'm going to click on stop. And now we've made 3 videos, and we're going to save this one, and we're just going to call this one number 3, systems. So we've now got 3 videos, and this is the way that I would work. I would always record the videos first, and then I'd bring them all into Camtasia for editing, and that's what we're going to do now. So let's bring those 3 videos onto the screen. I've kind of started a new project just to make this easier to work with. I'm going to click on import media, and I'm going to bring in these 3 videos, 1 2 3, open, and they'll come in. Notice the import media button disappears once you start importing media in, but of course you can always click on file in the import media that way. Now, next thing I want to do is then, because it's a new project, make sure that I've got the right settings. I'm going to go again to 1920 by 1080 and click on apply. So that's the size of my canvas. Now I'm going to drag these videos onto the screen. So I'm going to use the control key 1 2 3 and drag them onto the screen. You'll notice that the second video has got 2 channels, because we have got a webcam recording and a screen capture recording, and this one's got 2 channels because we've got a screen capture recording plus we recorded systems audio. the first one's only got one channel. Now notice also that the recordings or the screen, remember we only recorded at 1280, so what we can do is right click and scale to fit, something I often use. And remember, because we've got the ratio absolutely perfect, then the recording or the recording size will cover the whole of the canvas, so the video will expand to fill the canvas. We can do the same with this one. Make sure that again that you've got both selected so that it expands the webcam as well. And then the final one, we're going to do the same, right click and scale to fit. So now they're completely filling the actual canvas. Now basically, whenever you're working with Camtasia, and of course we'll be looking at this in more and more detail as you come on, this is where all your media sits. This is the final outcome. This is what it's going to look like, and here is your timeline when you're working. Okay, now just want to point out a couple of things. One thing is, you can, for example, if I lock this channel, and again this is something we'll be looking at in more detail later, I can lock this channel so that I'm not working with anything on that particular channel, and I can just concentrate for a minute on this webcam. You can of course move that webcam around, okay, so you're not limited just to keeping it in that one place. You do have that option of placing it somewhere else, and we'll be looking at lots of other options with working with the webcam as well. One other thing I'm just going to point out to you, and that is that you can right click and then separate video and audio. So if ever you want to have the screen capture of the actual screen on one channel or one track, and then the audio on another, you can actually do that. You can separate them. So you do have that option. I can do that here again. I could click here, right click and click on separate audio and video. That would end up now with 3 channels. One for the screen capture, one for the audio, that's me talking, and one for the systems audio, that is anything that was recorded from the computer. Now in parts 2 and 3 we'll be spending a lot of time talking about how we can edit and work with these videos, and many things that we can do in Camtasia to enhance the video, etc. So whenever you bring in video or you make video and then you import it, you've always got that in your media library. That's all the things that you've brought in. It could be images, it could be audio, it could be video. And we've looked at how you can either import that content or create that content yourself using screen capture technology. But you do have really other media that you can access as well, and that is media that's provided by Camtasia. Now if we click down on what we call the library, you're going to see that actually there is a whole library of media that you've got access to. And I'm going to have a quick look at some of these things. So I'm going to select everything that's on the timeline and press delete to empty it out. And I'm just going to show you a couple of things here so that you can see what's available. So what we'll do is, for a start, we're just going to click on the audio files. So I'm going to grab here, click here, and you'll notice that you've got all these audio files. I'm just going to quickly play a couple of them. We'll be looking at these in much more detail later on in the course. So you can double click on them and just listen very quickly to the actual audio recordings. Now all of these recordings you can make use of in your videos, and to use them all you need to do is drag them onto the timeline. So if you drag an audio file onto the timeline, suddenly you've now got that audio file. Of course that doesn't restrict you from not having other things on the screen. So if I was to drag a picture alongside that, for example, what you might notice is that the audio goes on for a long time, the picture doesn't go on the screen for very long. So you can have the picture on the screen for a while with the music, and then suddenly the picture's going to disappear. Don't forget, of course, you can drag the picture out to last longer, but of course what you could do is choose to edit the video and cut it at a certain point. So you have access to a mass of additional media that you can bring into your video. You'd really have to work through all of this content. I can't say that I absolutely know everything, because I'm also fairly new to Camtasia 2022. It's only been out a little while. But if I click down, for example, on titles, and I can do what I've done with the audio, I can double click and just see a quick example of it. So let me just show you. You can click and see the animations, and all you would need to do is write your text in there. Let's have a look and see if we've got something perhaps a little bit more engaging. Let's look at this one here. This is a nice animation, and you can add all of these elements, these media elements, into your videos. So you would really need to kind of work through and get familiar with that, and anything you like, you just simply say, right, I like that, drag it on to the screen. It often asks you whether or not, and then you can kind of, there it is, it's on the screen and working. So that's one aspect. Now you can take it even further. Now you'll see here it says download more assets. If I click on that, it's going to open up, basically it gives you access to a kind of library of additional images, audio and video that are really useful. Now some of these you can access in the free offer, and some of them you will need to pay for. I do use them, I have paid for them because I need them, for example the intros and the outros and the motion graphics and many of the audio files. You literally can just do a search here. Let's say I wanted to look for technology images, so I can just click on images and I'll click on technology. Let's just have a quick look, and I'm going to do a quick search, and literally hundreds and hundreds of pictures will come up related to that topic. And if you can see that I can just download them straight into my Camtasia project. Some of them are videos, some of them are audio, some of them will be images, and there are literally masses and masses of them. So this can be really useful, and this is a third source really of content. In other words, your own content that you already have access to, the content that you create through making your screen capture videos, and this third source is really content that's provided by Camtasia, either for free or through paying for these additional assets. Okay, really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want the next part of the course, remember you can access the complete playlist below. There's also the option to download Camtasia 2022 for free and use it. And on the screen now, I'm going to add the next part of the course. Thank you very much.